I'm not thinking about just what they're doing just now, but I'm thinking of their trajectory as well. Like, where are they going to be in a year, 2 years? And
Yeah.
I'm looking at that even more so when I'm looking at more junior artists, because you can kind of see like, well, how passionate are they right now? Like, how good are they going to be in a year, 2 years at their current rate? Like, you can tell, like, if they're
Yeah.
just doing their job at their job and they're not really exploring art outside of what they already do, they're probably not going to expand too much further.
Mm.
They'll be really good at what they're doing, maybe, but they might not be as holistically good. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching an episode. I've got a special guest and friend, Tim Kaminski, here with us tonight. He's going to be talking about his art, sharing a bit about his process, and telling us his story. So welcome to Brush Sauce, Tim.
Hey, how's it going?
And if people aren't familiar, maybe they see your online handle as the Random Spirits, correct?
Yep, that's pretty much everywhere. You can find me at Random Spirits on like Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, and if not that, on ArtStation, you can find me under just Tim.
All right. And you're a savage with the upload. So you're pretty much uploading, like, I think on Instagram and stuff, like every day almost, aren't you?
Yeah, I upload a reel about every day, and usually have like some sort of art going up every day. Sometimes it's like a throwback piece. Sometimes it'll be something new.
All right, awesome. So, guys, if you want to check out any of Tim's stuff whatsoever, I'll have links below, of course, for all of that. And it goes without saying, if you have any questions, I'll reach out to you, and if you see them, feel free to answer them. But leave questions, of course, in the comments, and one of us will make an effort to answer them at least. So, Tim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know. I don't know why that question stumped me. Yeah, for some reason I can't see you right now in the interview. I don't
you
know
can't. Oh, I'm on if you're full screening something.
If I pop it out, there we go. Okay,
yep.
Yeah. Okay, now I can see you. Okay, awesome. That's way better.
All right, awesome. So what have you been working on for these uploads that you're kind of busting out so frequently these days?
Lately, I've been just kind of playing around with some different processes and stuff for my uploads. I've been wanting to jump into color sooner with my pieces, so I've kind of tried out combining some older processes that I used with some newer ones, and sort of going in with some really nice colors and really sort of quite vibrant colors with a lot of layers and stuff, and having a lot of fun with that.
What type of artist are you? You go in like aggressively with the layer management, or do you just keep making a dozen without managing them at all, or you stick to a few layers?
Well, right now I'm technically restricted by the amount of layers I can have by the canvas size, but usually I'm pretty restrictive with them, where I'll have like kind of group them logically, foreground, midground, background, and then you have like particles of like clouds and stuff like that. And I try to label them. If the file is ever going to go to anyone else other than me, I make sure that it's labeled and organized. But if it's just mine, I usually just have that sort of front to back structure in there at least.
Yeah, speaking of workflows, what software do you find yourself most commonly creating in these days? Is it all 2D, some 3D, maybe a bit of a hybrid?
I do hybrid. Used to do more hybrid stuff, but lately I've been doing just a ton of Procreate and lots and lots of 2D stuff, and even some traditional stuff. I was just doing some ink on like some coasters type wood pieces and stuff like that. Just recently,
you'll have to remind me to ask you after, if we don't get to it sooner than later, to show some of your ink drawings as well, because it really does reflect how kind of well rounded you are as a creator and artist. You dabbled in everything. You've got really a substantial amount of 3D stuff, the 2Ds, and all of it looks fantastic. What is your kind of history with some of that? Oh, look at that. So you even have like a 3D turnaround there. That's awesome.
Yeah, this one's like a nice combo of 2D and 3D. And for my 3D history, it goes back. I started playing around with 3D quite a bit when I first started playing around with art. Well, no, not first when I started playing around with art, but back when I was, I guess, a young teen. My dad got me Unreal Tournament, and I started playing around with the Unreal editor and recreating my house and stuff like that. So that was, I think, my early introduction to 3D. But then I also started playing around with Maya and stuff a little bit, but then abandoned it completely for years.
I don't blame you. And is this demo that we're seeing down below now, is that Blender? It looks like Blender.
Yeah, that's Blender.
Awesome.
And so this is just one of my pieces here that I I did with kind of a combo of Blender and then paint overs and then painting the background stuff.
You know what's awesome and refreshing about your work, because we're probably connected to a lot of the same individuals on Facebook. We see a lot of the same stuff in the feeds, and there's a huge surgence with the popularity of Blender lately. And what's great about your work is, like, I genuinely had no idea you use Blender, so it's very refreshing to look at, because there's so many pieces out there nowadays. You can look at it and you could just see Eevee all written all over it. It's just like they could not hide it enough. Which is a good or bad thing, that's going to be a personal preference thing, but I definitely find it refreshing when I see somebody doing a different process or hiding that, in their process as well.
It's interesting too, because I got really into Blender and I really liked it as soon as 2.8 came out, and I've been wanting to use Blender forever and waited for that update. But then I don't know, I was getting into it and I started feeling like I was focusing more on aspects of 3D and like noodling on little things, and I really wanted to focus more on the painting that I wanted to paint. So I was just like, I'm going to focus on 2D for a while. So I'm in a 2D mode right now. I'll probably reemerge in 3D mode soon.
Yeah, and I think I'm kind of like that with myself. I really switch gears often. Like, I might do a 3D project, or like if I have an idea, and let me know if you're at all like this, but I'll just do the 3D stuff for it, maybe for a week or two straight, and then if I, after doing the sketches and stuff, then I'll jump more into the 2D stuff and just focus on that for maybe months on end, if I can reuse the 3D, repurpose it enough, and then it may just repeat cycles, kind of like that.
That's funny because I use 3D, but I don't really reuse props or pieces that much. I don't know why. I usually jump in and I'm just like, I'm gonna model it from scratch right now, and it's such a waste of time. But I should just do better about going through my older files and prepping those up and having them ready to go for stuff. I think I could probably rapidly iterate. I think that's the next 3D phase, either that or sculpting in VR.
It's awesome. I got to put a video out on. It's been on deck for a while, but I feel like I've just scratched the surface with like Gravity Sketch, and I haven't even tried Oculus Medium and stuff. All these wonderful packages, but I definitely recommend, if anyone's got a VR and headset out there, to definitely try them, because it can really help you visualize something like insanely quick, which is, I guess, why I generally like the 3D stuff. But a lot of the stuff you've been posting recently anyway, you have define yourself such a style. It is to us, I would say, and you probably realize this as well, right? But the 3D you'll get to a point with that it's going to probably slow you down for like a good portion of your pictures, right?
Yeah, that's actually kind of why I switched, is because I felt like it was slowing me down and I was focusing on the wrong elements. I was focusing less on the overall image that I wanted to create and more on just like little aspects of things like that. So I was just like, I think I can just detach from 2D or 3D for a while, and I might free myself a bit more. And that's kind of the reason I've not been using too much 3D lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's valid for sure. Now I want to ask you a question, because I'm trying to pick a lot of people's brain on this, because I have my own opinions, and it's a very widely discussed topic out there, at least in a lot of the educational communities. Is like a lot of, and like, because I just did a workshop for Sin Studio this last weekend, and that question came up very quick, and even there was overlaps with them. Is like, students want to know if they're still training basic art fundamentals, would you personally recommend when would you recommend them to start learning some of the 3D stuff, if kind of like that's where their career path would eventually kind of take them?
I would say learn 3D right away. I
That's
think
what I said.
using them together, it's something about like sculpting and modeling and drawing. It all uses a similar part of the brain, and I feel like if you're drawing something and you're like, I don't quite understand that, if you try and go model it or sculpt it, you're going to understand it so much more and understand it from a different perspective. Yeah. And when you go back to draw that thing again, you'll be able to draw it so much better, especially if you're like actively kind of studying those things while you're testing them out. But for me, it's helped me so much.
Yeah, thank goodness you said it. I needed some validation, because I spit out advice like that all the time, and unless I really get into it, like we are here now, I never like, is anyone else going to recommend that same thing? But yeah, I more or less agree. Fairly, it helps you can solve problems and understand things, which someone learning fundamentals would definitely could benefit from. So yeah, let that play there.
Yeah.
That looks
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Let's pop this on here. This is another one where it's like a tiny bit of 3D, and then the rest is all painted. But I feel like I used to hide my 3D way back in the day,
Hmm.
and then I was just like, oh, it seems like everyone else is starting to do 3D, so it seems like that's okay now. So I'll show it. I don't know why I was hiding
Definitely.
it, but
I
yeah,
try to hide it as well some days. I guess I kind of like putting a piece. Maybe it's a small thrill of it, and I mean very small thrill. But I kind of like putting a piece out there and having someone look at it, an audience look at it, and like not exactly knowing what the hell is what. Hey, did you use a photo for that? Is that 3D or did you actually paint all the? Kind of like gets the gears kind of turning, and maybe on some level that might increase an audience interaction level up, right, to keep up with the algorithm. If you don't
yeah.
explicitly write what you did, then I guess it kind of invites a little exploration and I guess even interactivity with the audience, which is always welcome, I think.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I think for me, like then I was hiding it more from like I wouldn't even be like I wouldn't list a 3D software
Yeah,
package or something like that. And it was like I would draw over stuff. But I think that really helped me understand how to merge 2D and 3D.
yeah.
But I really used 3D to like if there was a part that I couldn't do, I'd use that to learn. But I would use it as a crutch, but also kind of like hold myself up and then learn from that little bit. And then in the future I could rely on it less.
Oh, that's awesome. So we've got a little bit about what you're doing on a personal level. Get this, and we'll get back to that. What do you have you been doing any kind of professional gigs? You want to tell us what that part of your career, your life is at right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm working at Wonderstorm as an art director on the Dragon Prince, and that's been really great. I've got to build up a really wonderful team to work with there, and we're working on the game side right now. And as an art director there, I've been art directing all kinds of different things, like
Hmm.
everything from like Funko Pops to like I don't know the front of books and covers like that. It's all sorts of stuff.
So you
You'll
do a lot of
cross my
meetings,
desk.
right?
Yes, I am. My my life is meetings. It seems like, but yeah, a lot of. I don't draw too much anymore these days, but yeah,
It's funny how that happens. It's like being art director, and then it's all decisions and management. I assume, right?
yeah. It really it's all about the people, which is I didn't realize that long ago going into art direction, but it's really about people, and it's really rewarding.
On the plus side, though, you get to like kind of store up, right, all that creativity that you might muster during the day, and you can just channel it right out, like just like a quick shot that you get to fire into your personal work at the end of the day, which always seems reliable. So
Yeah, yeah. If I haven't been able to draw during the day, it'll be good to sit down and just kind of relax and paint a personal piece or something like that. It's really fun. Yeah,
because yeah, I'd imagine too for like I guess a lot of people. Depending on where they are in their season of life and art career, they can experience that, right? If you're drilling art or even working art professionally to some capacity for 8 hours or more a day, I would say it's very difficult to have anything left in the tank at all creatively, to kind of spit out, at the end of the day. And that could be draining for someone. I think I guess that's when people start to get in a burnout.
yeah. I think I even in this type of phase, I can risk burnout still. It's just I've got to be careful. There's
Hmm.
like you get to that edge and you can feel like you're just about at the cusp of burnout, and it's good to take a break, pull back. Don't paint quite as much that day, or you can still draw a little bit. Just don't push yourself too hard.
And I try that's exactly what I recommend to people. It's like don't like if art isn't coming to you, if you like really are in a burnout, maybe you don't even know it. There's nothing wrong with simply taking a break. I think forced art or forcing art to a large degree isn't going to be more kind of fruitful or beneficial, in the long runs. Just take the break, re-get some, creative energy in your system, and then just come back to it. There's nothing wrong with walking away for a bit.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll find something that will inspire you, or maybe in the back of your mind, you'll be thinking about what you're working on, and you'll devise a new way to kind of tackle what you're going to work on. So it's taking a break is usually the best thing to do if you're kind of stumped,
Yeah.
or try drawing something else, or try drawing something really basic that you do understand that you can have fun with, and just to get back into the zone.
I think kind of switching gears a little bit, because I'm just getting mesmerized, of course, by these lovely time lapses. One of my favorite aspects of your art is your use of color. What does your relationship with color kind of look like? Was it something hard or easy for you to grasp? Did you end up in that stage a lot of students, kind of end up in where they're just drilling loads and loads of value for ages? Like, how has that process kind of evolved for you over the years?
So yeah, that's actually an interesting one because a lot of people point out how colorful my work is. So for years, I actually avoided color, like just
Wow,
very,
never would have
very,
guessed.
very dramatically. I would just only do black and white sketches with like graphite
Hmm.
and charcoal. And I'd go to pretty great lengths at doing highly detailed portraits and things like that in that media, but I just avoided color for a long, long time. And I got really scared of it. And the longer I would avoid it, the more I was afraid of it too. So,
I think a lot of students can relate to that. I get questions and messages every week, particularly on YouTube and stuff, just about that very thing. Can you remember a specific point or piece of advice? What initially got you through that kind of plateau or wall you kept hitting with it? What was your breakthrough moment or piece if you still have it to show?
I have the piece, but I don't have it up here to show. But the breakthrough moment, I think, was there was a teacher I had that they pointed out, or at least when they were talking about painting, they would have a painting that has one kind of very specific color. It's monochromatic basically, and it's like at the end you can kind of add like 10% of another little color in there, and it'll be the sort of focal point. And that got me thinking a little bit less about having to have all like perfect colors everywhere and having everything to make perfect sense from the beginning or be very realistic colors. And I think they also pointed out having like a complementary color setup, and then at the end, kind of coming in with 5 or 10% of another color to kind of draw the eye. And so I started playing around with that a lot more, and I think that gave me a little bit more confidence because I was making basically monochromatic paintings with just like a little bit extra color, and then at the very end, bringing in that really powerful color pop, and that helped me out a lot. I actually have the next kind of phase of understanding because for me with color, I kept kind of learning more and more about it, and I feel like for a while there was some innate understanding maybe, but not a complete understanding of every process or everything that I was doing. And I wanted to have a process that was very repeatable and a thing I could break down and kind of look at and make valid decisions on really easily. So I kept studying color. And actually, one of the pieces I showed earlier, this one was sort of the piece I was working on with the breakthrough that I had. And what it was is I started thinking about color less in the terms of color as red or green and blue, but instead just purely as temperature. And once I did that, I was kind of freed from everything. I could go into a painting, and that painting could start with any color at all, and I could determine what the other colors would be based on is it warmer or cooler. Oh, and the other piece was before this, I think even before uh, the the complementary color thing and the final extra 5% color, whatever. There was the warm light, cool shadow kind of idea, like when you're in a snowy area, and understanding that really really helped me as well. And thinking about that and kind of just stacking all these little bits of color information together, but the warm and cool thing really really sold it for me. Whereas like everything's based on temperature.
Yeah. Stone and like all your stone kind of structures and stuff, the snow, those are great materials and aspects to paint and learn color for anybody kind of wondering. I always recommend those materials. They're very easy to get reference for. They're not like insanely reflective and glossy. They're just a really they kind of bounce just enough color around. They're just a great material to really practice and train with.
Yeah, and snow is really fun in this one. I think that was the one that really kind of helped me think about it a lot and like how much color snow can be and the shifting of snow's colors based on the lighting it's hitting it. So that was a big one for me.
Tim, I gotta say too, after seeing such a handful of your work, it's really unified. It's really kind of strong visually. It feels like it is part of like one big connected idea. Now, how much of that do you want to get into now? Can you explain maybe a little bit of the backstory and how this world, how this setting came to be? If there's narratives and stuff, what can you tell us about your world here?
Yeah, so this world this world started quite a few years ago actually. I was working at a studio and I was doing concept art and a little bit of art direction. But the studio didn't really have that much of a challenge for me, so I was like, I think I want to make a game or something. I want to create something else extra because I just felt like I wanted to get something else out there. So I grouped up with a team of two other people. One was a 3D artist, and another was a programmer or engineer. And we had this whole plan of what we're going to do. We're going to do like this 3D game and Unreal and everything. And then immediately the 3D guy dropped out. So I was like, well, let's do pixel art. So I actually I made this game with Garrett Brown was the other person that helped me out with this. He was the engineer, and I had a few artists help me on some of the pixel art for some character animation stuff like that. And yeah, so this is about 6 months of work. Came up with like about I think I had like 3 or 4 biomes and a number of enemies and characters or there's one main character, and I think there's like 10 different weapons, and the weapons would like combo and combine. But yeah, so this is some footage of that right here.
So cool. And you were doing like all the environments. How much were you getting into the animation as well with this?
Yeah, I did a lot of the effects work. I didn't do the character animation on this one. I had a friend of mine help me out on that. It was David Bednar. And then also, yeah, I implemented all of this into the engine as well. And when I first started doing the pixel art stuff, I was like hand painting the entire level. And it was just like, this is taking way too much time. I need to come up with some better ways of handling this. And actually, that's where I started learning firsthand about like, you should make some modular pieces to create this game. And this is created in Unity right here. But yeah, this was about 6 months. I think this was the latest iteration that we had. It was fully playable.
So you guys just like hustling after hours, fitting it in during hours. How is this all playing out?
This is, no during hours. This is all after hour work. Let's see, there was some other gameplay here. We'll pull this one up too. Yeah, it's just like after work, weekends and stuff like that. We would just hang out and great. Yeah.
You're a true renaissance. You're doing the pixel stuff. You're creating playable game prototypes. You're doing the inking, the 3D, the digital. Is there any part of art that you still want to explore, in your career and everything that you haven't kind of touched upon yet? I guess maybe aside from the VR, which you did mention earlier.
Yeah, the VR one, definitely going to get into that. I kind of want to do some more traditional painting. I haven't really done that much of that. I've only done maybe a handful of paintings, probably like 5 to 10 in total in like my whole life. So I think I maybe a few more than that if you count like what I was doing as a kid. But I think maybe I got some gouache. I want to do some more traditional work. I would like to get into sculpting again as well.
Mm-hmm. Sculpting's fun. Yeah, definitely messy, but it's fun.
Yeah. So yeah, probably those. I'm not really sure other than that. I think I'm looking to get into something that's outside of my expertise, maybe like audio or something like that, just to challenge myself again.
That's the best way we keep on growing is we don't kind of stagnate or get too comfortable. It's like once we're kind of feeling slightly competent or maybe even confident with something, or what's next, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that I'm comfortable with art completely or anything, but I just, it'd be fun to start something at the base level.
Ground level.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all kind of like New Game Plus too, though, right? Like in video game terms, like you can take so much of everything you've accumulated, experienced, and it does help your footing. When you are starting at that kind of base level, I think, and it definitely can propel things quite a bit faster than when 100% noob or amateur.
Yeah. I was just going to point out here some of the effects that I had done in here, like this one, and then this terribly animated character that's running over there is also something I animated.
He's doing great.
It's hard to animate. I was like, I don't know how to animate 4 legs and make it look like you're looping animation. But yeah.
Now, did you guys whip up like a narrative, a story arc? Does your characters have names or relationships established? Because he's still still the same character, right? That's appearing in a lot of your current pieces, right?
Yeah. So It's funny. I've had this character for years and years. Like here's another piece down here, but I've never named them. I just recently started coming up with a name for them because someone asked me that very question. I was like, oh, I don't know why I haven't named this character. But there is a whole lore around the character and world, and there's even like I have a creation story figured out for it, uh, how the world came to be, and kind of a whole plan of what the game would be, and sort of uh, what the character sort of discovers through this journey of the game. And yeah, yeah, it's kind of ties back into the creation story and everything as well. So it's yeah, I've got a lot of stuff worked up for it. I just have to bring it all
You
together.
do have a lot of stuff worked up to this, which is going to lend my next question. Do you have a 5 or 10 year plan for all of this? Do you have a vision for what you could potentially do with it besides kind of late night kind of paintings and stuff?
So yeah, I've that's what I've been thinking about it
In
a
a
lot.
perfect world, we'll say, like, no budgetary restraints, or you have the time, let's just say, to do what you want. What would your ideal goal for this be?
In a perfect world, originally I'd always wanted it to be a game, and I think that's probably still its original form. But lately I've been thinking about it from a perspective of also maybe having it be like a show or a movie or a short or something like that. I think so probably a movie would be the perfect world scenario. I guess a series could work, but I never really planned it for that perspective. But more of like a long epic journey or like a yeah.
Well, as you know from work, right? Like, that's just the gateway too, because after there, you could take this and start getting into merchandising. You could do the
Yeah,
figures,
exactly.
the toys, the lunchbox, the video game, the comics, because you got all the lore, the trading cards. Oh, you could make this a thing.
Yeah,
The
yeah. Lately, I've
bookmarks.
been there's so much potential for it. Lately, I've been wanting to like I don't know team up with somebody and do maybe a short or something that's manageable.
Yeah,
That would be could kind of be the
it's do
tip of the iceberg.
the proof of concept.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. Let me pull up some other pieces here.
That's something you could really get 2 feet into animating and then just whip up something. Oh, look at that! That's cool.
Yeah, this one's a hardcore Blender one.
Mm-hmm.
You can see a little bit of it in there.
Just a little bit of cycles maybe. What what's your do you have a primary influence on this, and or I guess what inspires you, or where do you find inspiration most frequently these days?
These days, most of my influence, I'm really inspired just by like textures, or if I guess I'm not outside that much lately, but I really
Yeah,
like looking at little areas or microcosms, basically of like when you look at the grass or something and you see like a little
little
tree
thing.
or a little plant, and you think of how that could be if it was huge, and even just walking outside, just like succulents and stuff, like imagining that plant life
Mm-hmm.
can be really inspiring, and just even sometimes just colors or patterns.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's always going to be a way to keep it fresh, and I think that's definitely a great way to do that. And I think because this project for you goes what over 5 6 years, right? Like, back.
Yeah, it goes way, way
So
back.
this
Yeah.
stuff, even though I think aesthetically and thematically, it shares stuff with like super popular franchises, right? Like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and all these great things. But yours predates all of that.
Yeah. It actually does.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe they took some inspiration from you.
Maybe. Yeah, that would be. There's some pieces here that a lot of people have kind of pointed out. They're like, oh, that looks like Breath of the Wild. Here, I'll pull up a few
It's like,
that
no, Breath
fit
of the
that
Wild looks like me.
commentary. Although there is a Breath of the Wild piece right there. But
But-
yeah, I have actually. There's a whole nother portfolio and a whole nother group of pieces that are even older than these that also have this look too.
oh,
That
awesome.
are that's like the portfolio I used to get my original uh, job in the field.
What? Okay, since you kind of brought that up, I think it's a nice way to kind of segue into, because this is something that a lot of students are always wondering. What is your, if maybe you even know firsthand as an art director, if you're ever in a position for hiring, artists for specific roles, what do you have for tips, or what did you say just in general, or just things to flat out avoid, or what do you recommend even?
If you're for
Yeah,
good portfolios or
yeah,
for submitting
yeah, for
portfolio,
portfolios.
for good portfolio, make it really easy to get to the art, see the art quickly. I want to get a lot of options really quickly. I don't want to have to kind of see one at a time and dig through them. I'm looking at a lot of portfolios usually, so it's a lot of art, and
Mhm.
I I think a lot of people do maybe more fan art than they should possibly,
Should.
because I think fan art, it's a good way to get attention from non-art directors or people that it's a good way to get public attention, but it's not a great way to get hired because fan art doesn't show me that you can design a unique character or come up with your own world or anything like that. So when someone has something that's really unique, it's usually quite captivating because it's something new, and so that's why I would recommend doing that. For me, I focused on one or two worlds and built that up a lot, and so I could have very focused art. I could always be like, oh, what do I want to work on? And I'd be like, well, I could push this part of the story or add a piece here and there. So there's always something you can keep focused on.
Like, yeah, like a project based of portfolio approach.
Exactly.
Have
Yes.
like just a few, like 2 to 3 different projects to cycle through, maybe different themes or uh, things like that. Is a great way to kind of keep the work really focused, like you said, for sure.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Now, for the portfolios, do you recommend, or do you find it people, kind of weigh in the strongest with them if they kind of have, you know, a very unified body of work. Like maybe they're just a character specialist. Maybe they just do environments. Maybe it's 2D, 3D. Where does the work usually sit in terms of that scale? Is it mostly people submitting almost everything they created, or are you just seeing, a very kind of or are you looking for usually from your perspective and opinion just a more kind of singular body of work?
It's usually more of a singular body of work where it's kind of focused, where it's like this is kind of what we want to have or what we want
Hmm.
to do. But when I see portfolios that have extra stuff in it, I'm always really excited. Like I saw a portfolio recently that was environment artists, but they had a bunch of drawings of portraits and stuff like that. And I guess they actually said that some people were sort of thrown off by that. But I was like, oh no, that's great. That shows like some of your other inspirations, and that shows that you're passionate about art to me.
Hmm.
So sometimes I might be looking at it from a bit of a different perspective, as we're a bit smaller studio too. So I think that also comes into play. Like, if you're applying to a larger studio, you're probably
Yeah.
going to need to be far more specialized. But if it's in like a smaller studio or indie studio, usually if you can wear more hats, that's better.
And that's better. It saves time, money, resources. So, and that's a great thing to always have. And the more well versed I think an artist is, and better. Usually their art, kind of grows and prospers from that. I was just talking on YouTube last week about that, because there's always places, you don't have to use every skill for every job, right? For every piece. And it's always just part of that experience and growth. I think that can help people, just become really nice, well-rounded people as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's really good to explore outside of your area. It always kind of expands the way you look at things and your kind of holistic understanding of things overall too.
Yeah, I just when I'm looking around and I'm trying to gauge and understand things, I think there's far fewer success stories where people are these like really just like these one trick ponies, and they just do one thing, and they've never kind of, maybe they've made it right, but they don't step out of that comfort zone like ever, and they will. Some people can get success for that, but I think for most of us that's usually not the path or even the case.
Yeah, when I'm looking at portfolios or looking for artists, I'm always looking for people that are I'm not thinking about just what they're doing just now, but I'm thinking of their trajectory as well. Like where are they going to
Hmm.
be in a year or 2 years? And
Yeah.
I'm looking at that even more so when I'm looking at more junior artists, because you can kind of see like, well, how passionate are they right now? Like how good are they going to be in a year, 2 years at their current rate? Like you can tell like if they're
Yeah.
just doing their job at their job and they're not really exploring art outside of what they already do, they're probably not going to expand too much further.
Mm.
They'll be really good at what they're doing, maybe, but they might not be as holistically good.
Yeah, that's definitely very, yeah, that rings very true from what I've seen, as well. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with just continuing to grow and develop. Now, do you think for like a lot of artists and students, they get really turned off when they see companies and studios are saying, you need some kind of experience to apply, or worked on X amount of jobs? Do you recommend, maybe if someone has a body of work that, even if they don't meet all these requirements, that do you think it's still ever worth, a shot submitting this body of work?
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
you should definitely, you can gauge it to other people that might be around your level is one way to look at it. But I think you should always submit stuff. I think a
Hmm.
lot of times job application postings are worded in a way that can be
Yeah.
kind of throw people off. And I think they're also, that's actually brings up a great point. I think a lot of job postings can be like gendered or written oddly that'll have like only certain types of people. So I would recommend, yeah, apply. You should definitely apply.
It doesn't hurt. It really doesn't hurt. And what worst case scenario, you don't hear anything back, right?
Yeah.
So
You don't want to be pushy about it or anything like that. I know some people that can push a little too hard, maybe, but
yeah, a follow up here or there is definitely not a bad thing. I definitely hear really great stories too about how persistence paid off. But as long as you're not like annoying the heck out of some, and
yeah,
I think right, proper etiquette I think can go so far these days, especially online. Like online etiquette, there's groups of people or maybe a generation out there that's just so far removed. And because I know I get spam message all the time, people don't introduce themselves, they don't say any kind of intro. It's just like, can you tell me if this piece is working? Like, I don't know you,
yeah,
who are you?
they just want something immediately,
Want
and it's
something.
like that seems odd to want something immediately without really like giving anything in return. I've always looked at it that way. If I'm not going to try like contacting someone if I can't maybe help them out somehow,
Yeah,
or at least offer them some
just
assistance if I'm
yeah,
going to be asking for something.
just being really kind of forthcomingly polite about it. Can, like
Yeah.
kindness, right, goes so far. Uh, well, we're hitting about a good time here, so I wanted to thank you again for coming on tonight, and ask you, do you have any kind of parting advice? Maybe something we haven't covered, maybe something you find wholeheartedly valuable that could help a potential younger artist and someone trying to break in.
Yeah, for what I would say would be don't feel like you have to be like everybody else or your art has to look like everyone else's or you don't have to use the same
Hmm.
approach. If you're coming up with a different approach or something, that's awesome. Being different is great, and I think just being yourself can be quite powerful within this world. And I know it's tough to get your art out there in those early stages,
Hmm.
but as long as you just keep pushing and you're aware that your art can grow and everything like that, I think it is good to push a unique style and just have confidence in what you put out there. And even if it is a bit different, I think that's actually what's helped me is all the times I've made choices where it's like, oh, this is going kind of against the grain. And those are usually the ones that have stood out more than anything else.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I know that some people out there, some people listening to that needed to hear that for sure. A lot of people get caught in these traps with style, right? In particularly, or is my stuff not realistic enough for this? And am I pigeonholing myself into But yeah, like there's something out there, right, for everybody. There's certainly in 2021, 2020, this business and industry is really hasn't taken a hit at all due to circumstances, which is great for creatives like us and stuff. So competition might be a little higher, sure, but there's more opportunities out there, more so now than ever for people. So if they can put themselves forward and get that confidence, like you said, confidence goes such a far way with this stuff.
Yeah, even just start posting, right? Like if you're unsure if you should be posting on social media yet, if you don't feel like you're good enough, I think start posting right now. You
Yeah,
can it's a good way to start seeing that visual progression, and it's a good way to have a record of that.
yeah,
I know it's hard because you don't get too much of a response from people, but everyone has to go through that
you have to
path.
go
It's
through it. That's what some students were asking me last week. It's like I hear other professionals say not or to like avoid posting too soon or all this stuff, but I was like, you're not, when you're posting on Instagram and like probably you're not applying for a job. You're being authentic about your growth and where you are at, and people love following a good story. So
yeah,
start building that up now, because it's not going to hurt you at all in the long run.
yeah,
It's
that's hugely important. Like it me actually about portfolios, like some people will
mhm.
have a portfolio that is a you can go to ArtStation and see like their visual progression of the last 6 years. And some of their work in like 6 years ago was bad. It wasn't that great at all. But to see that progression, you can see how much they've improved. And you can also be like, oh, look at their trajectory, how much they're going to continue to improve because you can see how
Mhm.
much they've worked at it. And so that always means a lot to me to see people's
Awesome.
work that's not perfect. So yeah.
No, again, thank you again for your expertise and your opinions on all this, and of course your story. Like, this has been really great and insightful. So, guys, leave us a like if you got any value out of this, and of course, let me know who you guys want to see on next. As I was telling you earlier, yeah, you've been requested now at least 2 to 3 times, so I'm of course
Oh,
happy to kind of fulfill that. So, thank you very much for coming on.
yeah, it was a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Kindly check out the Brush Sauce Academy link below for all your creative needs. You can see a variety of my services, from classes to mentorships to individual content packages. Keep on creating, and I'll catch you next time.